I now call to order the August 27, 2024 Board of Trustees meeting, time being 6:29 p.m. Please rise to the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Clerk, may the roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon,
Here.
trustee Daly, present, trustee Moyer, present, trustee Teets, here, trustee Wiegand,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Here.
Mayor Shosse.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda this evening? No. Any conflicts of interest with the agenda this evening? No. All right, now the time for public comment. Those wishing to speak, approach the podium, state your name, and be given 3 minutes to speak on non-agenda items. Clerk, will you please read the titles of the items on the consent agenda?
Resolution number 43-2024, appointing a town clerk. August 13, 2024, regular meeting minutes. August 20, 2024, special meeting minutes. Resolution number 44-2024, making an appointment to the Parks, Recreation, Open Space and Trails Board.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Clerk, need a roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
trustee Daly,
Yes.
trustee Moyer,
Yes.
trustee Teets,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes. All right, Ms. Clerk, will you please read the title for item D1?
Resolution number 40-2024, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Wellington, Colorado, adopting the 2025 to 2029 strategic plan.
Thank you.
And if you don't mind, I will just get
Okay,
ready to do
perfect.
this
Ms. Christie will
presentation.
present from where she's at.
Hold on, sharing my screen real quick. All right, so this, I'm happy to present to you the proposed 2025 through 2029 strategic plan for the town of Wellington. So as you know, the Board of Trustees contracted with the Ottawa Group to go through the strategic planning process. Information was reviewed by the Ottawa Group related to surveys, the town hall that was taken, the comprehensive plan, items of that nature, which reflect where Wellington wants to be and where Wellington is. Interviews were conducted with the Board of Trustees and members of the senior management team by the Ottawa Group to get a sense of where everyone felt like where they needed to focus their efforts on and what dreams and visions were had by the Board of Trustees. So the vision has been changed a little bit from what it was in the past. The vision now reads, "Welcome to Wellington, where deep-rooted values and a rich heritage unite to forge paths that honor our past, ignite a legacy of unity, and create a welcoming community for all." Yes, sir.
Did you correct the spelling on Unite?
They were
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Heritage Unit.
Oh, yes, that was a typo on my part. I do
Okay.
apologize. I did not catch that. But yes, to unite heritage, a rich heritage
Uniting.
uniting the forge pass. I'll have to look at that. I do apologize. But essentially, that is the brand new vision that the Board of Trustees worked on and wanted to lead with. The mission has stayed the same, provide outstanding municipal services for our community of today and tomorrow. There were some guiding principles that the Board of Trustees adopted at the beginning of the effort, and these were principles to help determine where the strategic plan would go. Those guiding principles are listed here. The first one is being community-centered. The next one is talking about relationships and being a collaborative partner with all entities. The third one is fiscal responsibility, and the fourth is accountability. And the accountability is important as it talks about bringing back the information and making sure that we're achieving the goals that are set before us. There's 4 strategic directions. These are the goals that objectives will be built upon. So grow responsibly, cultivate and nurture community spaces, foster economic vibrancy, and ensure strong town operations. Under these, there were several areas that the Board of Trustees really landed on as far as making sure that we are making sure we're making room for growth as far as community spaces. Making sure that we're looking at things like transportation and I-25 and those types of areas. So, and looking at that economic vibrancy piece, how are we going to grow our businesses? How are we going to retain our businesses? And what are we going to do to bring new businesses in? So the next steps is adoption of the strategic plan as we have presented. Then we'll have the 2025 budget adoption. Then staff will go into the goals and develop those and present those to the Board of Trustees. Along with those goals, staff will start doing some quarterly reporting to the board on where we're at with those goals. And then I'm putting into the budget to schedule an annual retreat as a check-in, hopefully with the Ottawa group sometime next April or May. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Trustee Moore.
No questions. I thoroughly enjoyed this process. It was really wonderful to break down all of our goals, both, as individuals and then together as a board, along with staff. I feel like we came to a really great place and I'm excited to make it official.
Thank you. Trustee Keith.
I have nothing. I'm grateful that the wording that we were wanting changed got adjusted. I noted that in the new packet. Other than that, I think that the work that was done on this was intensive, but also very well worth the goals that I can already see accomplished through this plan. So, no.
Thank you. Trustee.
Appreciate the process, and it was cool seeing the city people and us working together on this, so appreciated that opportunity. Great insight. Thank you.
Trustee King.
I agree that, working together with staff for half of this process was very enlightening and added a lot of depth and richness to our strategic plan. I've seen a lot of strategic plans, and this is probably one of the best that I've ever seen. I think the process was well done. I thought the Ottawa group did a good job facilitating that. I like everything about it. Thank you.
Trustee.
I too enjoyed the process. I think that this plan really embodies where communities are right now, where it needs to be in the near future. So I'm very excited for the future and what we're going to accomplish with this strategic plan.
Pemberton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no questions about this. I just want to thank our friends at the Ottawa Group staff and town administration, as well as the rest of the board, for coming together and getting this plan created. I think this is going to be real great for the next couple of years as far as our priorities go. So very excited to get this passed by.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, that was an amazing experience. Ottawa Group did a heck of a job, and staff being involved and everybody there. It was huge, and especially seeing each and every one of you and working together and the compromise and the ideas, and just to see everybody's heart for the town was really cool to see this come together in the form in which it did, and see it, now in front of us, so we get to vote on. It's pretty cool. So thank you, every single one of you guys and our group and staff for that. Let's see here. Any comments from the public on the side? All right, do I hear a motion on the side?
I move to approve resolution number 40-2024 a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Wellington, Colorado, adopting the 2025 through 2029 strategic plan.
Second.
Next clerk, roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
trustee Daly,
Yes.
trustee Moyer,
Yes.
trustee Teets,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Ms. Clerk, will you please review the title for item D2?
Ordinance number 08-2024, model traffic code update.
Okay, and then, and at the end, the town attorney will be presenting, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dan Sapienza, Town Attorney. I had a PowerPoint presentation that was in your, handed out to you at the last meeting, and as I was preparing for tonight's meeting, I realized it was all just a bunch of words that couldn't really demonstrate anything, so I scrapped that. So if you see me look at my screen, I am looking at that same presentation, but I'm happy to get you. What's in front of you today is ordinance 8/2024. This proposes to adopt the 2024 Colorado Model Traffic Code and the traffic code for the town of Wellington. This is just really, it's a technical housekeeping item of sorts, I would say. The town last adopted the 2010 model traffic code. Since then, this is at least the second revision. There's a major revision in 2020, and this is a subsequent in 2024. Between 2010 and 2020, largely technical fixes. If you would like to redline all of those changes to that 300-page model traffic code, I'm happy to try and get that to you. It's not a very exciting document, but I can get it to you. And then between 2020 and 2024, more fixes to this. It's basically, this is a model traffic code. Municipalities and counties use this across the state of Colorado. So this is something that's really part of kind of the day-to-day life with everybody in the state. You know, how we work on the, or how the streets work. It's important that we keep this updated so that the town of Wellington isn't operating on an old model traffic code where if you drive right outside of town limits and you're on county roads, those that are enforced by a more updated traffic code. There are not a lot of significant changes from all these versions. I highlighted a couple in the memo. New 2020 and 2024 versions have some new items related to automated vehicle identification systems. Those are traffic light and speeding cameras, which are not really typical in town of Wellington. Unless in the future the town decided to use them at the moment. Section 242 is about automated driving systems. Uniform state laws about automated driving vehicles or automated vehicles, which are becoming more and more common. 1402.5, which is about vulnerable road users. These are additional protections for pedestrians and bicyclists. You know, it's really about the penalties for driving and injury. The main change there. 1412.5 is controlled intersections. This one's that's the title of this section. It's about bicycles being able to deal with stop signs. It's become state law, and so the town of Wellington has it. So those are the major, I'll say, substantive changes. I mean, there are other changes. There's a lot, but this is a adoption of a code by reference. There are special notice requirements we have to give for that. So tonight, treat this as a work session, a first discussion. We've never talked with the board about this. We'll need to set this for adoption in the future. So we put a motion ready for that. If there are amendments to model traffic code, the town of Wellington can remove items from the model traffic code, or it can amend it, change. It just really, we shouldn't contradict what's in it. So if we change something, we shouldn't do the total opposite of that. It's more about what's enforced in the town of Wellington. So if you like amendments, or if there's items you'd like more research on. I have never discussed the model traffic code or traffic laws with the board of trustees, in the past 4 years. So happy to answer questions. This is about the laws that are enforced in our municipal. And this is a lot of what we see in municipal code. Fender benders, accidents, speeding. So this is a lot of what the North County Sheriff's Office does in town of Wellington, and a lot of what I see in municipal court. So happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Trustee Bailey. Thank you. Trustee Regan.
No question.
Trustee Moore.
No questions, just want to state I'm a fan of codes and keeping them updated, all the codes, building, traffic, all of them. Consistency is important, I think, across municipalities, so thank you.
Trustee Teets.
Yes, I do have questions. Page 304, when,
Which page 304 of the packet?
Yes,
Okay.
oh, you know what, I probably have the previous one. This is
What's the
discussing,
section number?
so section, this is the one that was scratched and then amended, section 1212.5,
Give me.
engine idling.
Give me a minute. Oh, engine idling.
Yes.
Right.
Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Okay, so this is an amendment that the town of Wellington made in a previous version. So let me give a little background before you get your question. I'll get right back to you. This is an amendment that the town of Wellington made in a previous version. In this ordinance, I rearranged sort of our town code a little bit. I find that there was some, I'll say some sloppy drafting in our town code previously. The way it read was, the following items shall be deleted from the model traffic code for enforcement in the town of Wellington. And under that section of all of the things that were being deleted, it said the following item is added. And so it was just there was a sloppy drafting item. And so what I did here with this ordinance is I've simply renumbered a little bit. So now there's the items to be deleted, and then there's the amendment with that item. So it's not a change from our current law in the town of Wellington, it's just a movement. But go
Got it.
ahead.
So my question related to engine idling, and I just want to verify, I'm not saying it's wrong or anything like that. I just want to verify that it says that we do not allow idling of more than 10 minutes, and there's a few exceptions. I just want to make sure that when our I-25 is closed down and we have larger semi trucks that come into town, are they under that protection when they need to leave their vehicle running? Is that
I
covering
think
them?
it's a great question. I mean, we do have that incident happen periodically, and so that would be a life and safety issue. And actually in section 2, it says this section shall not apply when the engine of a motor vehicle must be operated in idle mode for safety reasons. And so I think that exception there would fit that circumstance. So if it needs to be run for safety of the operator, then this wouldn't apply.
Got it. So say the operator has a generator but still wants to leave their vehicle running. Is it still something that they are capable of doing?
This
So,
section doesn't apply in safety,
Okay,
for safety reasons.
perfect.
And, you know, with anything like this, Laramie County Sheriff's Office has a lot of discretion in enforcement of this. And certainly something like that would have to come to municipal court, where again, we have prosecutorial discretion, and the town of Wellington has no interest. I'll speak as the prosecutor now for the town. I don't have interest in prosecuting truck drivers for being safe on a winter day.
perfect. That was just my classification. I wanted to make sure that they were included in that. The other question is I know you said that we are not here to cancel out their code, but we have an ability to request something. So in section 109.5,
Anyone get that?
low speed electric vehicles.
Okay,
Since with the approval of this, they will now be allowed on our roadways, so golf carts, items like that.
let me look up the definition of a low speed electric vehicle. Because I don't know if that would fit. But you would like, okay, no, look this up.
I was just hoping, so it's set at 25 miles per hour. If it's something that we could look at, changing that speed to 15 miles per hour and up instead of 25. And if there was any legality issues that we were looking at in order of transitioning that from 15 to 25.
That's a question I'll probably do a little research.
Perfect.
And I'll talk to you offline on that, but I think that's a question I can get back to you.
Got it.
109.5?
Yeah.
That's something I can come back, since it has to come back anyway, that's a prototype item for a little additional research.
Got it. So, and golf carts is listed under that. So in section 111, the powers, it says operation of golf cart on state highway, except that the ordinance or resolution may authorize a person to drive a golf cart directly across the state highway at an grade sidewalk, bike path, or pedestrian path consistent with section 42-4-117. So is this something that we're going to have to start marking for them to be able to cross over Highway 1 on Cleveland?
I believe, I want to get do a little more research on this, but I do not believe,
Correct.
my understanding of golf carts and off-highway, we had this discussion before with golf carts and off-highway vehicles. They're not allowed to be driven on the streets of the town of Wellington unless we allow them. And, so I want to, let me confirm that on how that. connects to
Interferes with adopting this
traffic
traffic code.
code. But the general rule with your question about crossing Cleveland is, those vehicles can cross highways, they can't drive on them, but yeah, I mean, this was a big part of the work session that we had a long time ago about off-highway vehicles and golf carts is. Basically, if the town allows them, we need signs.
And that's.
The
what
entire
they're
town
saying.
needs to be filled with signs about how golf carts and off-highway vehicles and, it really became a budgetary issue. We don't have the money to make all those signs and mark all that. So let me get an answer to just generally about golf carts with the mobile traffic code and there other question about this. So I'll get back to you.
Perfect. Are we doing anything to adjust? So when we adopt this, are we adopting, I'm looking at the fee schedule on 170. Are we adopting this fee schedule or will the town of Wellington keep their regular fee schedule?
The town historically has used the mobile traffic code.
Okay, so this fee schedule will remain the same.
Pretty sure that's what we use. And there's no proposal here for them to change that. Unless the board would like to adopt a higher fee schedule or a different fee schedule, we can discuss that, but that's not for this.
Got it. Those were my questions. I knew that this was being treated like a work session because it was noted in the packet, so I figured that I asked a lot of them and you answered a lot of them previously. These were just the additional ones that I had.
And thank you for clarifying it. And really, it's always helpful with those, this section says this, that's what I want to know.
Got
So what specific section you're reading, but I'll get some answers to those questions next time we talk. Maybe something in the meantime as well.
Perfect. Thank you. That's it.
Chris Kim.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Steph, answer for that. I had one question. You talked about excluding section 713 relating to yielding the right of way to transit buses is not being adopted.
Ooh. Again, that's actually just in our current code, but
Well, my question is, we've heard discussions and we've heard requests about the need to get mass transit between here and Fort Collins. And if, maybe that's a transit bus essentially there. So, I'm wondering why we would exclude that if, I mean, first of all, they're not driving in Wellington right now, so excluding that doesn't have an impact. But if we do get bus routes here, wouldn't we want 713 part of the model transit code for the town?
I think if we do have transit buses, which would include on this talk with TDOT getting bus staying up to Cheyenne, so they'd be stopping here in Wellington, and talk to, other buses to connect Fort Collins and Wellington. I mean, I think absolutely, that's part of the future of Wellington. I would include it. Here it's a great question. I really appreciate you looking at that. Really trying to, was leaving in place the existing exclusions, but I see no reason not to have it there. If that's part of the future, I would remove that exclusion. That's something you want to make sure is going to be here.
Well, I would say it's not needed currently, whether or not we exclude it or include it. But if we do get the transport, I don't need this lingering out there and having to go back and modify our model traffic code at that point.
And I don't think there's a harm in leaving it in.
Yeah, I
mean, that's
I
the
wouldn't
other
think
issue
so
here.
either.
We've excluded it, so it's not a specific offense in the town of Wellington, but even if we have no buses, there's really not a harm in there being in there. So I think that's something that don't want to come back to this later. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would be okay with leaving 713 in the model traffic, but instead of excluding. The second is, and Trustee Keys, I appreciate your comments as well. And I wasn't around for some of the discussions about some of the non-registered vehicles that are out there. The model traffic code under that section talked about bicycles and assisted bicycles, kind of like an e-bike or something like that. I live over in the Meadows, and just about every day there's some kid riding a monkey or a go-kart or a small 4x4 down the street or an adult doing the same thing. And, the only time in my life when I've actually had an accident involving a kid was when they were on a city street with a little scooter, unregistered, that were probably 12 years old. And the look of horror on his face when I slammed on my brakes as he darted out in traffic. Didn't know what to do, and he was doing this, and we hit like this. And he dropped. He was okay, my truck was okay, his scooter was okay, his parents were out there, and I talked to his parents a bit about it. And the other day I was driving home across the interstate, heading east from Cleveland there. And there was two of them, you know, one of them was almost like a side-by-side go-kart with two teenagers in it. And a little scooter, like one of those little fat tired Honda Monkeys or something like that. No tags, no registration, and they're trying to go over the interstate in afternoon 5 o'clock traffic. I'm not a big fan of unregistered vehicles on roads. Not a big fan of those kind of things. Now, e-bikes are different. E-bikes are covered here, but maybe this is just an observation, but yeah, I don't know what kind of discussion or work session you had on that before, but I would not be in favor of allowing that in traffic on our roads.
It states it in here, it's not allowed.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially some of those vehicles you've mentioned there.
Mhm.
Those
And
are
the age
absolutely not allowed in the town of Wellington,
Yeah.
or in almost any street. And those, especially those, four-wheeler, those are incredibly dangerous on paved roads. Even if you're not going at extremely high speeds, they're just not designed for that. So in particular, going over this. I-25 has been one of the discussions that we have internally with the conversations around off-highway vehicles and other things. We can't go over that. So even if the town were to allow off-highway vehicles, we can't go over that overpass. That's just something the town can't.
But they can do the underpass.
Well, they can't drive those on our trails either, so they can't do the underpass, but the town can't operate and go over the overpass, so.
Can we address that in the traffic code then? Because it states
Well,
where
They
it's,
shouldn't be driving on any of the streets at the moment, so.
got it, right?
So they shouldn't be getting to the underpass in the first place. But I'll come back with some more information, how that relates, how those issues you discussed relate to modern traffic. And I'll give you the link to the work session where those things were discussed previously. So you can get up to speed maybe on those things, how those conversations.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay. Member Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think I've got a lot on this item. It was certainly when it pertains to the traffic code specifically, but I did want to point out, I think I noticed the other day that we're starting to get some electric trash trucks on our streets, and I think they're generally about 10,000 pounds in excess of what a gas-powered trash truck is. So I think this kind of comes back to road wear and tear and that sort of thing, and maybe just for the board's future consideration as far as the trash hauler fee schedule goes. I don't know, I think that trash haulers are required to have lower load requirements because of the increased weight, but maybe just in the future, if we want to get some clarification around that, if indeed these are 10,000 pounds in addition on our streets, it may be worth considering an increase to that fee schedule. So I just thought I'd throw that out there for future consideration. Other than that, I have no other questions.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I had no other questions other than the electric vehicle one. Good points brought up by trustee Keys and just kidding, I think that work session video will be. If you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. It's pretty straightforward work session. Okay, any comments from the public on this item? And then we're gonna be motioning to postpone this to a specific date. Do you have the,
Before you get to the motion to postpone this to a specific date, trustee Cannon brought up at least one specific change.
oh,
So
yes,
if you'd like to bring this back for full consideration at a specific date, so it's your options, so you've got many options. If you want to bring this back for discussion at a specific date, with that amendment, make that amendment now, and then we'll bring it back. We'll have to have changed it.
Since that one doesn't require much research, do we have agreements, I mean, on the amended? For
This-
that
And
transit,
this is the yield.
Transit bus.
This is yielding to transit, adding back in section 713 instead of 1.
perfect, okay, so we, one motion? Is there, oh, go, did I not call him?
You did, but I just.
Okay, go.
I was waiting for no, I guess we're working session. I do want to note for the low speed vehicles, it does require registration as well. We talked about that before. So is there, what's that mean and how would we enforce that?
Well, that's, I mean, if the board would like more discussion on those
Okay.
vehicles, let me bring back some of those.
All right.
Lights to a little more traffic code.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that golf cart or off-highway vehicles are prohibited, under, unless the town authorizes them.
Okay.
So where it is talked about low speed vehicles, I just want to see how that relates, to bring some clarity. So I'll bring those questions.
And then, I do have worries that my e-bike goes at 32 miles per hour. So like e-bikes are kind of getting wild if that's faster than other small vehicles, low speed vehicles. So it's something to consider. I've capped it out for my kids on that. Because they're wild. The other question I have is relating to, just to bring up some trash talk. And this might be more associated with hauler licensing, but it would be associated with traffic code too. And I don't know where this lives in other communities, but I've heard about it, limiting times of place, days of the week potentially. Where, and I was thinking of it for trash haulers, of where trash haulers. Or I guess in this case, it would have to be a certain weight of vehicle, not specific to trash haulers, would be allowed. So some of those are like around school zones, for example, during school hours. Potentially those very high weight vehicles. Yeah, would maybe not be able to go in that area. I don't know how that works or anything. I just want to throw that out there as maybe a consideration, maybe even down the road when we're doing hauler licensing. Of how you would control that, of like when and how some of these really, really big vehicles are and where they are and when. If there's a potential that we wanted to control that, I don't even know. I'm just throwing that out there. I've heard of those before. And then I think based on conversations I have in the past, that some of those are hard to do unless you just prohibit heavy vehicles in general for significant areas. So I'm thinking of county or country club. I know they went through a whole thing trying to restrict any kind of heavy vehicles going on country club. And then they have the other, restrictions and signs that regarding that road to avoid a lot of significant traffic. So I just want to bring that up there as a discussion. Maybe it's something we could look into that was, but if you guys are interested in what's possible, if it's possible or not.
But it's not those on weights and emissions and certain locations.
Okay,
That's not, I don't know the site off the top.
Okay.
But there are restrictions on certain heavyweight vehicles, not specifically related to time, I don't believe, it's just certain location. And certainly, I don't think there's an additional limit on trash haulers, and I wasn't even thinking about battery powered trash.
yeah,
trucks. That's an
and
interesting one.
consider that either.
So,
Okay.
we can always bring that discussion. back.
Sure, and then the reason why I bring this up too is not necessarily the trash trucks that pick up your trash at your house, like the loading trucks. It's the one that could potentially be carrying all of those from one site to the other, from the transfer station to the dump, which happens to be a straight shot up County Road. So, I also know that very heavy vehicles are used by farmers on that road too, and that is not something that I've ever heard or anybody is interested in a restriction. So, considering one versus the other, there's a lot of questions there. So, but that's another reason why I bring it up, is that's a risk. Maybe that's everything. We're told it's not, but I'm still worried.
Yeah, good points. I think it's positive. And really, kind of not.
I don't know.
Good points. I think that'll be something we can discuss, definitely down the road in a work session, and then start getting closer to that situation. Any other final comments on everything prior to that? No, okay. Do I hear a motion to postpone with the amendment to, and then
Do we
clarifying question. When were you wanting to postpone? What was that looking like for you to get this information, get back to us, so we can have this?
The changes that have been discussed, relatively easy. A lot of that research on off-highway vehicles and golf carts is already right now. It's just the staff person who led that conversation is no longer with the plan. So I'll need to do a little bit more background, but if it works for town administrator very quick in September.
So we have September 10th and
I-
and
Okay.
September 24th, and you might
24th,
be,
I'll be in Chicago.
okay, so you won't be here.
That's the 10th. I can absolutely bring this information back in September 10th. Just get it right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Ms. Garcia, sorry for interrupting.
No worries.
Okay, who wants to go through that motion?
I have a quick question before we do that, because there was two proposed motions. One was to postpone to September 10th, the other one was to move the scheduled ordinance until September the 10th. So this is the first of motion, is that correct? Basically, we're not holding the public hearing yet. We want to get more information, answers to our questions. And that would be September the 10th, and then we'd have to still schedule that public hearing for the ordinance, is
Yes.
that correct?
If you'd like to schedule this for September 10th with that additional information, that's the first motion. If you'd like to schedule for the public hearing at that time with these changes, and then I will also bring at that time additional information on off-highway vehicles, which might lead to more discussion or it might not lead to changes. I kind of give some options there.
Okay, then I'd like to make a motion to postpone ordinance 08/2024 with the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees on September the 10th, 2024, with instructions to bring back information as to during the board discussion.
With your amendment.
With you,
If he's just bringing back.
Oh, I guess you don't have to.
I don't have to, we're not approving the ordinance.
Yes,
Second,
clerk Mary, roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
trustee Daly,
Yes.
trustee Moyer,
Yes.
trustee Pete,
yes,
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Ms. Clerk, will you please read the title for item D3?
Ordinance number 09-2024, amending the Town of Wellington Municipal Code regarding rules of parliamentary procedure.
Thank you. Ms. Banks, the town attorney will present.
Mr. Mayor, if it's okay, I'd like to also combine the presentation with ordinance 9/2024, along with item D4, which is a resolution adopting the rules of order in the county. So I'd like to, the two are related. There will be two different votes. If the board chooses to go ahead, but I'm going to combine my presentation. I guess we can combine the deliberation. So, this ordinance and resolution is something that we've been talking about with the board for a long time, and it's time to make some progress on this one. The town of Wellington, well, first of all, the two items in front of you. First, ordinance 9/24 removes the reference in the town code to Robert's rules. And then says the town board may adopt its parliamentary rules by resolution, and therefore resolution 41/2024 is a resolution adopting those rules. So that's why there has to be two of these. It's always been a little challenging in the town, having one set of rules adopted by code, and then we also have another set of rules adopted by resolution that conflicts at times. Some background on this, in the town code, it says that the rules or the meetings of the town board, town of Wellington, will be run according to Robert's rules. Robert's rules was written in 1876. That's currently on the 12th edition, which is 663 pages. I have read a lot of it, but I cannot say that I've read all of it. Assuming many people in this room have not read every page of that either. Robert's rules is designed for really it's been designed for a large number. It's based on Congress, which is 435 members of the House, And so it's designed for really large entities. It's not designed for, it's really not designed for small decision-making bodies, but it's the default. There's really a whole industry that's grown up around Robert's rules. So if you want to know how to use Robert's rules, you can buy Robert's rules for dummies, Robert's rules for every sort of guidebook. One of the problems with that is if you're using all these guidebooks, they're not definitive. These guidebooks can't be used as if they even slightly contradict what's said in the rules. So a lot of people think they know what's in Robert's rules, but a lot of people really don't quite know what's in Robert's rules, and it makes things really difficult. And for municipalities, in particular in Colorado, there's nothing in Robert's rules about open meeting laws. So it's actually, we can't abide by Robert's rules to the letter because of our requirements for having open meetings. There's no rules related to quasi-judicial hearings. So when this board recesses or moves into a liquor license or becomes a board of appeals of sorts, there's no rules in there. And so we actually have to not use Robert's rules while we're saying we're using Robert's rules because we can't use Robert's rules. And it's really, really hard for just any public body to adhere to them strictly. One of the core rules in Robert's rules that this board violates every time it meets is you cannot have any discussion or debate without a motion on the table. Just right there, that's like foundational to Robert's rules. It doesn't make sense in terms of a political and public body like this. It also doesn't make sense to use that sort of rule for quasi-judicial hearings. Because the whole purpose of a quasi-judicial hearing is you're listening to the evidence in the record, you're having this hearing and hearing from people. And if the board, before it even started that, a member had to say, I move that we approve this. Having heard no evidence, I move that we approve this. So that it's a core rule, it just doesn't work. Also, Robert's rules has a lot of rules for expelling members. Or expelling. Well, it has a lot of rules for censuring members, which violate Colorado law, but it has rules for expelling non-members from the room. So the board could vote to boot anybody out of this room according to Robert's rules, and it should, in fact, do that according to Robert's rules. That doesn't really work with the town. And there is nothing in Robert's rules talking about non-members being given the floor. We have public comment for everything we do. So Robert's rules, it's not to say that they're not a good set of rules, but we can't say that we adhere to them strictly, because we don't. However, they're no town code. Because of these challenges, a lot of local governments face these same issues, and a lot of towns actually write their own rules of procedure. That becomes challenging because why do we have to reinvent the wheel? We share something more uniform. Bob Widener and a lot of others that are involved in Colorado Municipal League over a long period of time have worked on Bob's rules. Bob's rules is not, and this is something a lot of people get confused by. Bob's rules is not just a simpler version of Robert's rules. It's its own set of rules, and it shouldn't be seen as a way to interpret Robert's rules. It needs to be something on its own. It's simpler than Robert's rules, and it's tailored for what this board needs to do. All those things I talked about before with what the municipal board needs to, how they need to run the meetings, they need to comply with law, they need to have the public talk. That's all in Bob's rules. Should all have a copy of Bob's rules in paper. We also can distribute it as a PDF that we can pass out as well. It's pretty simple, and if the board does choose to adopt this, then we can have some trainings on it. But it's how many pages is it? 162 pages, and it's got pretty big font. As opposed
Some are set as examples, so you can actually.
well, and if you actually just read the rules, you could read that in about 10 minutes. It's the explanations that take up the majority of this. As opposed to Robert's rules with 663 pages of minuscule font.
The book is longer. 162 is where it kind of ends, and then there's the appendix.
Thanks.
Just making sure.
Let's get this slide. Bob's rules, and I said they're different. There's different rules in Robert's rules. It's always important. These are not just an explanation. This isn't Robert's rules for dummies. This is something else better. Some of the big changes, and it changes that I think actually impact how this board operates, and something we already trying to do. Rule 5.1 is called the so moved motion. That's the simplified things. That's when you have a discussion and you say, well, I think we want to do this, or when staff member says, this is probably the motion you want to, if you want advice on a motion, here's one. Under Robert's rule, or under Bob's rules, not under Robert's rules, a trustee can say, so moved. Instead of trying to repeat everything that just came before, because everybody understood what was said. Under Robert's rules, that's nothing. Rule 6.1 of Bob's rules is a friendly amendment. This is something that I've seen this board trying to do a little bit. Under Robert's rules, an amendment needs to happen by formal motion after motion. A friendly amendment is essentially where this board says, or a member of this board says, I'd like to make a friendly amendment. And effectively, everybody goes along with it. That's not to say you can't object. A friendly amendment can quickly turn into a motion that requires debate and all of that. But if everybody has a conversation after the motion has been made, then you want to just change it. So I have a friendly amendment, I'd like to make this change. If there's no objection, that can move forward. That's not allowed under Robert's rules. Similarly, withdrawal of a motion. Under Robert's rules, you can't do that. Speed things up, it makes the conversation, this facilitates. Rule 1.5, something I mentioned earlier, discussion without a motion on the board. Again, that's core to Robert's rules, you can't do that. Under Bob's rules, it's kind of core to it that you're elected officials and your purpose for being there is having debate and discussion. And so eliminating the motion that doesn't avail. And finally, there's a lot of rules regarding presiding officer discretion and unanimous consent. That's not to say that the presiding officer gets to make the rules and everybody has to go along with it. But where there needs to be variance from one of the rules, just to facilitate discussion, to facilitate good governance, the presiding officer has the authority in many cases to vary the rules. And if a member says, I don't like that, to a point of order or an objection, it varies how it's going to be the situation. But the idea there being, presiding officer can do that. If everybody agrees, then why do we have to have motions? Why do we have to follow a rule that doesn't make sense? So you can vary those. So there's some of the big changes in Bob's rules. They're designed to help this board or any board operate effectively without being hamstrung by rules that it can't. In the town of Wellington, as I said, we have in code that the Robert's rules apply. Also, I believe it was in 2017, 2016, the town passed a resolution that said, but also we follow Bob's rules. And that resolution that says also we follow Bob's rules referenced a 2016 presentation at a Colorado Municipal League conference, because that's all that was available, was a PDF of some rules. Not to say those weren't good. The published version, they fixed a lot of it. They fixed things. This is actually, it's a really good product they put together. And also it's easier to say, buy the book, as opposed to go find that conference material from 2016. That really was a problem, and we've actually encountered this here on the board. Bob's rules is not an interpretation of Robert's rules. It's different rules. So when there's a conflict between the two, what do? One's in our code, one's not. So we have to follow Robert's rules when they do conflict, and it leads to rather absurd results. From language in that 2016 ordinance. Rules of the Wellington Town Board shall be governed by Bob's rules, as such rules clarify and supplement Robert's rules. They don't clarify or supplement Robert's rules, they replace Robert's rules. That doesn't make sense. I want to run through a couple rules. I apologize, it's getting a little more limited about talking, and I think that I love rules. And as I said, if the board decides to adopt these, we can do a training, or I'm always going to answer questions, like, read it, it'll take an afternoon. Rule 1.1, any state or local law that concerns the conduct of a meeting is part of the rules of order to the extent the law is applicable to the body. That means you throw the rules out the window when they're violating the law. Robert's rules doesn't have that. It's to say, if something contradicts this, we need to follow the law. Rule 1.3, the body may presume that any legally required public notice for the meeting for each agenda item was properly completed. That means we don't have to start with, did we give the right notice? Because you can assume it, but you also don't have to. You can always ask that question, but you can presume that we have done, staff has done the work to give proper notice for that meeting. Rule 1.8, a meeting formally ends only upon the presiding officer's declaration of adjournment without objection or upon the approval of a motion to adjourn. And the board kind of does this already.
So I've seen boards use this as, you know, here in Wellington, we take a motion to adjourn, second, roll call, yada, 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 yada. But I've also seen, I think this falls under Bob's rule, what you're just talking about is presiding officer, which is the mayor, can say, there being no business coming before the board, we're now adjourned. Without a vote.
Without a vote.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, but as mentioned earlier, through all these rules, that's giving the presiding officer discretion into the meeting. Well, what if you weren't done, Mr. Cannon? What if you weren't done?
Well, I'd say so.
You would say something and you would object, and that's part of the rules as well.
Yeah.
So it gives them the ability, you don't have to have a motion and roll call in the meeting, you just say adjourn, but if you say, no, we're not done with this meeting. You don't give consent, you raise a point of order. Then you need to have a motion. So it gives discretion to speed things up because you really need to have a limit of time. But it doesn't give him the absolute control to just do whatever he wants. But I think it's a lot of times goes. And this board kind of has done something similar to this from time to time also. It's easier, it's obviously. Rule 3.4, the presiding officer may exercise discretion during the meeting, subject to a point of order or point of queue. That's what I just said. That's right there in the rules. He has discretion, he or she, who's the presiding officer, has discretion, but it's always subject to a point of order. Rule 4.1, the floor is required to address the body. This is similar to what's in Robert's rules. In essence, where the presiding officer gives the floor to whoever would like to speak. And can control the amount of time. Rule 4.4, a member may obtain the floor only once until all other members are afforded an opportunity to obtain the floor. There's a lot of things like that are in here that are designed to facilitate conversation and make sure there's fairness to all members of the body. So you go around once, and then if somebody says, well, I've got more, you can do it again. But everybody, equal opportunity for all members to have the floor.
I have a question for you really quick.
Mhm.
In rule 4.3, it says a member's right to the floor is limited to 5 minutes. It doesn't say that it's a discretion, so is it a discretion or does the rule state limited to 5 minutes?
So
It says the rules limited to 5 minutes.
Yep.
Subject to rule 3.4, which says the presiding officer may exercise discretion during the meeting, subject to point of order.
But it
So-
doesn't say subject in that line.
No, but rule 3.4 does. Rule 3.4 says the presiding officer may exercise. So the rules, all of these rules can be varied. So the 5 minute rule that you're pointing to in 4.3, it can be varied by the discretion of the presiding officer. And also it's 5 minutes at a time. So subject to then rule 4.4, which says a member may have the floor once until everybody stops. So basically it's everybody gets 5 minutes. Unless the mayor says, well, you've got a ton of great questions, I'd like to allow you more time. And if the mayor says you've got a ton of great questions, I'd like to allow you more time, more than the 5 minutes, he can do that. Of course, then another trustee can say, we'd like to move on, and then you can have a vote on it. So there's really a lot of discretion in all of this and the ability to vary. So it says 5 minutes, it sets that as the default. Of course, if that doesn't work for the board, all of these can be, one of the nice things of putting this in resolution is now these rules are not baked into the town code. So if the board adopts these rules by resolution and later says, wow, that 5-minute thing is not working for us. It can be changed by resolution,
So
or
if
it can
we,
change just by voting.
I'm sorry, if we go and adopt this rules of order. And the wording that's stated in part of this motion states that it null and voids anything that conflicts against this.
So
Okay,
I would avoid other resolutions, such as the 2016 resolution.
got it. So explain to me related to conflict of interest, because it's very well defined here that there should be none.
And this resolution, first of all, cannot null and void any laws of the town nor of the state. So first of all, the resolution cannot null and void, cannot avoid any of those. So I guess I'm not, with relation to conflicts of interest, what would,
Because we
What do you
have
think is the
two
point?
different conflicts of interest items written in our town ordinances.
the resolution cannot affect the ordinance. So the ordinance is repealing, is changing a minor section of our town code. The resolution then is adopting these as the rules of order and nullifies any other resolutions or other non-law aspects of the town that conflict with this. So that would be really other resolutions of this board adopting previous versions of rules. But a resolution can't override a law. So the town
So then
laws,
we'll
the
have
state
a-
laws will not be changed in any way with what they say about conflicts of interest.
So what is listed in our ordinance for the town of Wellington?
Remains the law of the town of Wellington.
Got it. So, but then this one in 1.4 specifically states that they should disclose the conflict of interest and recuse themselves from participation in voting when required by applicable state or local law. So,
So if they are required to disclose or recuse according to town law, which is the ordinances that are unaffected. Rule 1.4 says you must do it.
and so this applies to all of the boards.
No,
This would be our adoption.
all that's happening, all that this discussion is about changing the rules of procedure for the board of trustees for the town of Wellington.
So the rest of our boards wouldn't be following the same rules that we
No.
adopt?
The other boards follow their own bylaws. What's in our code says that the board of trustees follows Robert's rules. There's no law of the town of Wellington about the rules of procedure that other boards follow, other than the laws of. For planning commission, for instance, the laws around the board of adjustment, there are state laws about how they conduct meetings. But no, there is no other ordinance in the town of Wellington saying. Town advisory boards must follow Robert's rules. They work according to their own rules, they work according to the bylaws and the rules set out by the town. If you'd like this to apply to everybody, that could be a conversation, I'm not sure. That it's not really what's part of this proposal. We're really just talking about board trustees.
Back to your questions, trustee Teets.
For right now, it does.
Ms. Gannon?
Quick question, then, piggyback on what trustee Dees was talking about. Even the planning commission, board of adjustments and so forth, motion board, if they have a conflict of interest. Ordinance say they have to
Absolutely.
declare the conflict and recuse themselves. So they're still covered by the town code and by state
And by
and
state.
local laws. You know, but the order of how they conduct the business is set up by.
Yeah.
Right.
This is about rules of procedure, not laws around conflicts of interest or anything else. And that's because our town code only says the board of trustees must follow Robert's rules. The other boards, the board of trustees could establish rules of procedure for other boards, but usually that's left to the board itself. Those boards work by their own rules that they adopt, and a few of them have bylaws that they set that out. I think many of them work by kind of a variation on Robert's rules, kind of like this one has.
But there would be no problem with them adopting Bob's rules.
No,
No. Any further questions? Trustee Moore?
Yeah, I just have one, in relation to rule 7.6 0. It says proxy and absentee voting is not permitted. How does this affect our virtual attendance?
Well, virtual attendance is neither a proxy nor an absentee. Rule 7.1.
7.2.
Yeah,
Proxy,
7.2.
7.2, proxy or absentee voting. This doesn't have an effect on our virtual procedures. And actually, there's a section there, I don't remember where it is, in the Bob rules, that actually talks quite a bit about how these might apply to virtual meetings. The rules remain the same. Now, the ideal situation for the board, and for any body, is you adopt rules of procedure. And you also adopt bylaws. Those bylaws would spell out some of those other questions you would have about virtual attendance and those other things. And that's more what the board has discussed in the past. I think that the previous discussions and the more interest, Cannon, we were part of those that were held probably about 2 years ago. But a lot of those discussions are about more items that should go in bylaws, about how the board operates, things like packet materials, additions to agendas. That's not rules of procedure. This is about meetings, how the meetings. So these same rules apply to virtual meetings. So if you like changes, put them in bylaws.
I appreciate this. I think it simplifies and it's gonna make our meetings efficient. And, yes, thank you.
That's good.
It does mention that your only options are yes or no in votes.
Mhm.
What is a scenario within the abstain? Does it still count as a no vote? Tell me more. I haven't actually read the book. I'm just looking at the.
Yes,
Should be.
well, it addresses that.
Okay,
I just need to.
Proxy or absentee vote.
I would hope that every scenario in which you're not voting, you're like, you're recusing yourself. But I'm sure that scenario for abstain will come up and whenever that happens, we're all like. We don't know.
Always been an open board.
Yeah.
I thought it was. Yeah.
It has it states that, I just know the problem.
Okay, it says no, it's not like just excluded from the denominator.
It's a no vote. If you abstain, it's a no vote.
Well, that's what I was learning, you can burn with Fox rule, so. I don't need this.
I can get you there, too.
Okay. It's not gonna. determine, so.
And these are things that can be, actually, could be addressed in bylaws,
Okay,
and then we just, under the commentary, which addresses a lot of these
Yeah.
things. First of all, it says rule 7.5 does not recognize the right to abstain from a vote.
okay,
I mean, that's, the court would, there's really not a reason to ever, for any member of any board to abstain.
Right.
So that's a decision not to.
Yeah.
A recusal is a totally separate thing.
Right.
You recuse yourself from voting when you legally cannot, or you have a conflict of interest, or you have a conflict of interest requires you to recuse. An abstention is to say, I've heard all the information and I'm choosing to not vote. So rule 7.5, first of all, doesn't recognize the right to do that.
that's what it was case, because it kept specifying your only options are yes or no. So I was hoping that was the case.
And it says some local governments allow bylaws, so they're saying if they wanted to allow abstentions,
Okay.
but in this case, it's.
Fine.
You can do something.
It's yes or no,
Yes,
no other option unless we have a bylaw.
sounds good to me.
From what
That's,
how I read it.
I can get you another, I'll read it more, but you think what it rule 7.5,
Okay, I like.
It will not count as a yes or no if they abstain.
so it's just.
It won't count as either unless we make a bylaw. Yeah. Yeah, so,
Which makes some sense.
Yeah,
yeah, it's page 79. It's the second paragraph basically in the book. I'll read through it, but yeah.
I'm just worried it doesn't like remove it from the denominator of the calculation.
Well, but if you have a board of 7, you have 3 members vote yes, 3 members vote no, and 1 member abstains. You have a 3-3 vote, it requires a majority to pass, it fails. So that abstention, while it's not counted in any way, effectively is a no vote because,
Okay. So
you know,
yes.
because there it can't pass without a majority. If you have more than one abstention, it complicates things a little bit, but, it's.
Okay,
The effect is really a no, because. Usually.
everything was makes sense.
Trustee,
Yep, the only other question that I have is related to how an item is brought to the board. So typically you need a trustee plus one additional to bring something, and this one, it states you need the whole board to.
Those are all items that should be addressed in bylaws. What this one is about, where this talks about bringing something to board, that's where here at a formal meeting, you know, I think the example you're using of one trustee plus another is between meetings, where multiple members come to the town administrator, say, we'd really like to bring this item, that discussion, that's part of the, more the bylaws, that's the rule, not the rules of procedure, just the rules of the board. What the Bob's rule is about is here in a meeting, you say, I would like this to be brought forward at a future date. Here in the meeting, it requires a majority vote. So it's about voting, really, and that might be something. But this is really just about meeting time. Not outside meeting.
I could be mistaken, I'm sorry.
yeah, one second, trustee Kim, trustee Keeper, are you done?
Yes, that was.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, sure, thanks, go ahead, trustee Kim.
I thought our code actually, our municipal code actually said that the mayor, the town administrator, or two trustees can bring something to the agenda. So that's already in our code, not necessarily bylaws.
Yeah, I think to trustee Teese's point, she was talking about the agreement, our prior board had come up with on, it takes two trustees or a trustee and a mayor can bring something onto the agenda. What should I, correct me if I'm wrong, is that what you were referring to?
No, it's listed in
Right, but,
our code.
yeah, but that's what you were referring to,
Yes,
right?
that was, I was referring to is because
Okay,
I want to
Yeah,
make sure that we're not, when we do this, if this is saying one thing and then our code says another thing, are we having to go through code edits so they don't again?
I'm not sure.
Wash.
It's in our code.
I don't,
I
yeah,
don't believe that's in our code.
I believe it was
I,
a
we've always
verbal
talked about that
agreement.
as a rule.
But the mayor and town administrator being able to set the agenda, that's a separate situation.
Our code says the business of board of trustees shall be conducted in accordance with the prepared agenda, which only may be altered by approval of the board. And that's where he talks about Robert's rules. If I'm incorrect, I absolutely want to know that, but I don't believe that's in code, as long as we discussed it was in the rule.
Like I said, I could have been mistaken,
Those
but I knew that was the prevailing procedures.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
You know, two trustees, the mayor, or the town administrator,
It's all, that's.
That's been
to put it on the agenda.
standard historical practice. Trustee Moore. Were you done? Trustee?
I'm done, thank you.
Trustee Moore.
Yeah, I just, am looking at the, abstaining question. There is a section that says when a member expresses an otherwise unpermitted abstention on a vote, the rules of order deem the abstention as an affirmative vote or declaration in favor of the proposition.
Where was that?
Yes.
Oh, my God, that's a total.
Yeah.
It's in the abstaining from voting is not permitted section. I'm not sure I'm finding it online. It says page 4 here, but.
I think I'm like,
So I have,
Bob's rules, CML.
see, everyone needs to read this one.
seeing it's, I'm just gonna read straight from
It's-
the book. In the event a member eligible to vote abstains or otherwise refuses to cast a yes or no vote in accordance with rule 7.5, the vote is out of order. The presiding officer may ask the abstaining or non-voting member to vote in accordance with rule 7.5 by declaring yes or no vote. Should the member refuse to vote in accordance with rule 7.5, the body may consider recording failure to vote in the minutes as, for example, member Smith refused to vote. The failure to vote will not count as either a yes or a no vote. Some local government bodies follow a rule or bylaw provision that requires the recording of the absentee or other refusal to vote as either a yes or no vote. And then we should consult legal.
Our lawyer just lawyered me and, showed me that this is not the most updated version.
Oh.
And this is one of the issues with Robert's rules.
That was on the PowerPoint.
Is when you have a document that is too complex and you have all of these different analyses, different interpretations will say different things. She's looking at a document from 2021.
Okay,
And so we're not, and that, it's key. This is the book that we're talking about. It's the officially published version. And so if you look things up online, they're conflicts. But it's also an area where if the board wanted to make that the rule, you can do that by bylaw.
Like not allowed. I'm the end of not allowed as it is, so get a vote.
I mean, my favorite thing, yeah. Okay. Further,
Are we gonna make sure when we do this, that we have a particular version that we're gonna be voting on?
we'll be voting on this one right here.
This one right there, that will be noted
If
as.
you look at the resolution 41, 2024, says the Board of Trustees hereby adopts as the rules of order governing meetings of the Board of Trustees, the publication of Bob's Rule of Order for Colorado. The spelling there,
Oh, I just caught that.
we'll fix that. Bob's Rules of Order, not order, for Colorado local governments, Widener 2023 edition. So it is adopting this book, this version, this one. And, you know, the version that was adopted by the town previously by resolution, it said it was actually a PDF from a conference. And so there's, since that one, there's been numerous changes in the public version.
Mayor Pro Tem? Anything?
No questions.
Okay. Public comment on seven. Going once. Going twice. Oh. All right. Do I hear a motion on this item?
I move to adopt ordinance number 9, 2024, in the town of Wellington Municipal Code regarding rules of parliamentary procedures.
I'll second.
Ms. Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
trustee Daly,
Yes.
trustee Moyer.
Yes.
Trustee Teets,
Yes.
trustee Regan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Please proceed, get started with the resolution. I guess, well, we can talk about it. Any questions on the? Yeah, I guess.
Now that
go
we're
over
on
the rest a little bit.
so effective 30 days from now, Robert's rules will no longer be in town code of the town of Wellington. Town code now says that the board may adopt rules by resolution. So, the goal of all of this is as the board evolves and finds rules that it wants to change in. So this is no longer, we're not asking to codify this, so it can never be changed. And if next year, 2024 version comes out and it brings up some real good points about an extension vote, board can adopt that one again. Things change. So that's what resolution 41, 2024 is. It does not create, adopt bylaw, it does not adopt other rules. It's only adopting this book as the parliamentary rules for board of trustees.
Any questions on that? I'm just gonna look around. No, okay. Comment from the public on the item? No. Okay. May I get a motion?
I move to adopt resolution number 41 2024, adopting rules of order for the town of Wellington Board of Trustees.
Second.
Ms. Clerk, may I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
trustee Daly.
Yes.
Trustee Moyer.
Yes.
Trustee Teets.
Yes.
Trustee Regan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Okay, reports. I'm turning, dance at the end of.
Yes, town attorney, yes, I do have a report today. Rules of procedure are very important, that we just discussed. And on September 9th, which is a Monday, at the planning commission, we'll be holding a presentation on quasi judicial best practices. What I'm doing is I'm taking a presentation by Sam White from Sursa that I thought was really well done and really well organized. I've modified that presentation to fit the town of Wellington. And we're having that presentation training on September 9th, not at a meeting of this board, because it's very important that we have the same conversation with the planning commission and the board of adjustments. That meeting will be noticed as a meeting of the board of trustees, like any other work session. The presentation, I think, is, I can talk for about an hour, roughly. They talk for longer, but I'll try to limit it to about an hour. I think it'll be really, really good. This is the presentation that I saw at CML this year. And as I was listening to it and watching it, I just thought, I want the board to see this. I thought, well, I want the planning commissions. I want everybody to see this presentation. I think it'd be really good to kind of have a grounding in quasi-judicial proceedings. That'd be very beneficial. So I would really encourage everybody to attend. September 9th. When is it? 6:30? 6:30. I also received a couple questions from members of the board, and I thought I'd address this in the board report, also for any public that may be watching, with regard to the discussions of utility bills and CORA. Just wanted to address this. Get this out there. CORA, Colorado Open Records Act, of course, requires the town to disclose any public records, and public records is an incredibly broad definition. There are exceptions to what needs to be disclosed, and specifically in those exceptions to what needs to be disclosed are names, addresses, phone numbers of utility customers. So the town works really hard to maintain confidentiality of that information that it holds. Of course, the town also has, the board of trustees has an obligation to disclose communications you have with the public. So we have some tension between an obligation to be transparent and disclose communications with the requirement to remove this information regarding utility bills. All that being said, I would highly recommend in any communications you have with the public, if somebody wants to provide you something like that, I would encourage the board to respond, making sure that person knows that any communications they have with you are subject to court. Just get that information out there, put that in their head, try and avoid disclosure of things that they don't want to be disclosed. Of course, town's gonna do its best to maintain confidentiality, and we have an obligation to under court with certain things. But the more communications that are out there, the more likely it is the information that somebody may not want will be disclosed in a way. So if you receive information you think somebody might want to keep confidential, I'd let them know. Make sure they know that communications with you are subject to that law. So if you ever have questions about court or anything, that's always let me know.
Ms. Garcia, town administrator.
Thank you. A couple things. So I sent you all an email. I'll be on vacation starting tomorrow, and we'll be back in the office on Tuesday. We'll be headed to Connecticut to help my mom move into her retirement home. So I'm really excited to spend a little bit of one-on-one time with my mom and get her settled in her new place. It's a great opportunity, and I thank you for that chance to get away and be able to be with her. I would like to talk to you a little bit about an opinion that was expressed regarding the job performance of a staff member last week. I want to reaffirm that the town of Wellington is served by dedicated public employees who consistently demonstrate professionalism and a strong commitment to our community. As town administrator, it's my responsibility to guide and protect our staff and my team. And I did do a very good job of that last week. If you have any concerns, I ask that you bring them to me. If you have concerns related to a staff member or a performance related issue, and I trust that you would trust me to handle taking care of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the staff reports that are in the back? No, okay. Board reports, Trustee Moore.
Yes. We held a very successful event for Safe City School Wellington on August 14th. We were able to hand out lots of backpacks and tons of school supplies. We fixed about 12 or 13 bikes for folks. The Legion made amazing hot dogs, like the best hot dogs ever. And we served about 150 of those. Kiwanis helped out in every single aspect, like 11 businesses in town either donated, sponsored, or gave in kind. It was just a super successful event, and I feel like it really embodied what the town working together, joyful experience, and just a good community, wholesome gathering. So I want to thank everybody, all my board members for sure, for all of their hard work on that event. And that's just going to help us to move our grant forward and hopefully do some really cool things for the town with our remaining funds. My second thing is I've been asked, to sit on a panel at the CGFOA conference in November, in Colorado Springs for affordable housing and financing options. And so just wanted to let you know.
Trustee Teague.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that my family conquered a large amount of the hot dogs that the American Legion produced that day. I'm very sorry. Drake is a huge hot dog fan, and then my husband also attended and conquered a large amount. So thank you very much for providing the food. The event was a blast, and I really look forward to seeing those happen in the future. It was awesome to see Cody out there fixing bikes in all of his glory. So it was kind of nice to see the town staff. Parks was out there with games. So it was great to see everybody in their own little group, but everyone was mingling and having fun. So it was a lot of fun. My daughter loved it. Other than that, I don't have much of any board report on my side related to anything right now. I just wanted to say thank you and thank you.
Trustee Wiggins.
I have no report and I apologize for not making it. I was back in Illinois visiting grandkids, so I guess that's an excuse.
Next year, sir, next year.
Okay, but no report. Thank you.
Trustee Kim.
Thank you. You know, there's been a lot of attention on our water situation. You know, all the negativity on the Facebook and social media comes out usually around the bills, so we haven't seen a lot of that negativity recently. And I'm excited about the progress the town's making. And I have been having conversations with staff and also with Ms. Garcia about that as well. But social media last week put out a report saying that I said something and I misspoke at that time. I was using some preliminary information there, but it got on social media. And I think Trustee Mayor Pro Tem for contacting the person and pulling that down, because the last thing we want to do is try to jeopardize any negotiations or movements we're making with North Food Irrigation. But I will say that I am encouraged by the conversations between the town and with North Food. So if anyone saw that report about Trustee Cannon saying some kind of savings, please disregard that. Thank you.
Very well said. Thank you, sir. Trustee Ed.
If people were not able to attend or watch, we did a joint planning session with the Wellington Main Streets program, got another download of all the amazing work that they're doing in town. So I wanted to thank them for that work and also remind people of some of the events that are coming up. Main Street Market continues, even though summer break is over, till September 22nd on Thursdays in Centennial Park from 4:30 to 7. So I encourage everybody to come down. There's usually multiple food trucks, tons of activities. There's also a kids market where our children are selling their goods that they've created. So it's a wonderful event and plenty of summertime to still celebrate these kind of things. Also, they are in the midst of trick or treat on Main Street planning. Everybody loves that event. It's one of the biggest attended events in town. So keep that in mind. It is indeed on Halloween. A lot of people wonder. It is on Halloween. And they're also going to be hosting a couple Q&A sessions to learn more about the program. And my hope is to recruit more people who would like to be on committees and on the board. There's going to be 2 sessions, one in September and one in October. Dates and times and locations are still being finalized, but there'll be a couple opportunities to learn more about the program and the amazing work they do. And if anybody's wondering, how can I help? What can I do? The Wellington Main Street program is a huge opportunity, and they do some really, really amazing things downtown. So please consider learning more and how you can help. Otherwise, with Prost, they are making great strides and doing great work as always. They're also, planning to host a silver award for one of our local Girl Scouts, to work on a, community project. In the hopes of her receiving her silver award, which is the second highest achievement of a Girl Scout. So I wish her luck, and I know they're gonna be talking about that in the next meeting. If you're interested in learning more about that, please come to the next meeting. It is always open to the public. Anybody can come, and it is a very relaxed setting, so when public comment happens, you get a significant amount of face time, discussion, and people really want to hear what you have to say. So please come to Prost meetings if you're interested. And then they're making great progress also moving forward on efforts on the Veterans Memorial Community Park. That's another item. If you're interested in participating, please come to our meetings. And then otherwise, they're looking for some trails, they're getting more details on trails and opportunities for connectivity. That was a big item that came out this last time. And then they're also working on recommendations for budget. So they're already, I mean, staff's probably already approaching budget season. Pros is already thinking about budget season, providing priorities from community outreach that they can make recommendations. So I appreciate all of their support and they're great volunteers. So those are my updates. Thanks.
Number 10.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. The Larimer County Opioid Abatement Council is kind of finalizing our funding bucket priorities for the coming year. We funded a lot of great grantees last year, such as Northern Colorado Health Alliance, Northern Colorado Health Network, Summit Stone, Larimer County Sheriff's Office. So I do look forward to continuing that work, and especially I think probably one of the biggest areas of impact up here, LCSO and our co-responder folks. So we want to make sure that we get those guys funded for the next year. Other than that, I would encourage anybody that has any great ideas as far as opioid abatement goes, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to hear what you have to say. And if you know any entities that are looking for grants, certainly please put them in touch with me. I can get them to the right folks. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. I don't really have anything to report other than, it's been, hard month in a couple of weeks for the town and you guys as well. You know, things get said and things of that nature about you guys individually or whatever the case may be online. And I just want you guys to know that, I'm here to support you. And I think each and every single one of you is here for a reason. You know, we all have a heart for the town and, you know, there's a lot of good things for us to do and that we are doing. And so don't get down about it. If you're struggling, let me know. I'm here to help and you guys know I care. So thanks a lot. Same to the staff. That's all I have. Motion to adjourn.
Is that needed?
Yes.
There's a column here I've got to fill out, so I need a
All in
motion.
favor?
No, I need a motion
Okay.
in a second, please.
Second.
Who first? Who was first? Who first did? Okay, thank you.
Or maybe the roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
trustee Daly, trustee Moyer,
Yeah.
trustee Pete's,
Yeah.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Thank you, motion passes.
I now adjourn the regular meeting, time being, let's see here, 7:58 PM.
Thank you.
Thank you.